Hello, this is Kurt Franklin, and welcome to Total Recast.
Do it. Total Recast.
Hi, I'm Kurt Franklin, and this is Total Recast, a show where we explore odd casting choices in films and TV series, and discuss better casting choices, and amongst other things having to do with film and entertainment. This is my good friend Chris Kohls. He's joining me today, and we're going to talk about James Bond films, specifically speculating as to who may be the next James Bond, who we would like to see in that role, who we would not like to see in that role, and also discussing other things like our impression of the Daniel Craig films and related Bond material. So let's get started. So Daniel Craig is signed on to do one more Bond movie, which is called Bond 25 at the moment, very inventive, and it's supposed to come out in 2019. Apparently they're having some sort of production problems. But that's going to be his last one. He said the last one was going to be his last one. Now this one is going to be his last one, so there's going to be a new Bond, probably about 2022 or maybe the following year. What do you think about this, Chris?
Well, I'm not allowed to talk about it just yet, Kurt Franklin. They haven't allowed me to, to disclose the details of my being hired as the next James Bond.
Oh, really? That's an interesting choice.
Whoops, did I say that out loud?
That's a very interesting choice.
Yeah.
Has there ever been an American James Bond before?
No, but I do an amazing British accent, in case anybody's listening.
Can we hear a little bit of that?
No.
If you're good at something, don't never do it for free.
No, that's right, yeah. Do you want to know how to do Jason Statham?
Sure, why not?
Okay, so if you want to know how to do Jason Statham, it's very easy, right? You talk like a Cockney, right? You talk like this, like you're from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. And then you whisper. You just whisper everything. Suddenly, you're Jason Statham.
That's not that bad.
And if you think I'm going to sit by, let you send in a fucking secretary to do my work, you might as well accept my resignation now.
When you started out, you sounded a lot like Michael Caine. You sound like Michael Caine at the beginning of that.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, that's the kind of Cockney.
Is that a Cockney accent, Michael Caine? Okay. Yeah. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation over the last few years as to who is going to play the next James Bond. And now that we know that it's Chris, it kind of takes all the fun out of it. There's not really a lot of anticipation anymore from this point on. But assuming we didn't know that, one of the people that was in the running early on and was is it Idris Elba?
Idris Elba. Yes.
Idris Elba.
Idris. I believe his name is Idris. If not, write Kurt in Hawaii.
So Idris,
send him your email.
Idris Elba has recently said that he is not in the running to play James Bond. But there was a few articles in the British news and magazines saying that he was voted very highly. Like a lot of people wanted to see him play that part. Like
he was very
something
popular
like 26%. Yeah,
for less than 4
popular
years.
TV actor, right?
Yeah, I think he did some show over there. I don't remember what it's called, but he blew up. Like everybody wanted him to be in everything, and he is now. Really.
Well, I've seen him and I liked him. Jude Law might have been a decent Bond a few years back, perhaps a little bit too
bald.
Well, now.
No, I think he would be a good Bond. I mean, he was good in Spy. Did you see Spy?
Oh dear, did I forget to knock?
Well, he and Statham both sort of played, they played spies.
Well, I don't think
that's sort of the role.
If you cast Jason Statham as James Bond, it would just be going, full Jason Bourne. Be going full Bourne. You'd be like, screw the whole James Bond franchise. We're just gonna grab a knuckle dragger. I mean, not that Jason Statham isn't like a, complete bruiser, but that tends to be the role.
The accent isn't more sophisticated characters. Like he played the mechanic, the Charles Bronson character in that movie. But yeah, he's not like a Bond type of actor.
No, well, the accent's all wrong. I mean, the whole thing. Okay, the funny thing about the what was his name? Who's the
Idris Elba?
No, the new Bond. The Bond
Daniel Craig.
Currently Bond. Yeah. The reason why people were so irritated by the Daniel Craig casting, a lot of people were mad because he was blonde. He just didn't look right. But then after everybody saw the movie, the criticism shifted a lot, and it shifted to they completely wrote the character wrong. They wrote this kind of Jason Bourne, and we've talked about this many times. Yeah. They wrote this Jason Bourne type character who was could just like punch his way out of everything, but wasn't sophisticated at all. And James Bond has to have that sort of like shaken not stirred element to him. That's what makes James Bond James Bond.
That's a big fundamental part of his character.
Yeah, and that's
suave and sophisticated.
It's what we were talking about in the video that we made for my channel.
And a lot of times he finesses his way out of situations. He's not And they described in that movie too as like a blood instrument. And James Bond is not a blood instrument.
Right, and
he's sort of like does things that need to be done.
And the fact that they did that, I mean, I get that they were trying to differentiate
way.
their film from the previous films. I understand that. You know, it's kind of a good thing to do, but you don't strip the character of everything that makes him that character.
Well, at that point, just make a spy film starring Daniel Craig and don't call it James Bond.
Yeah, don't call
it.
They
want to have their
Bond,
cake and eat it too. They're straying too far from the formula.
Yeah.
And what I said about this when we were discussing it previously was that they made a Bond movie. I'm talking about the first one, and it kind of got increasingly like this.
Yeah.
But starting with the first one,
so Casino Royale was
a
huge departure.
Yeah.
And then they progressively realized the fans want James Bond.
Yeah, they wanted the selling point of the Bond name and to carry that franchise forward. But it seemed like they were making a Bond movie that was ashamed to be a Bond movie. And the best comparison that I could make with that would probably be Man of Steel. They make a Superman movie, but they want to be like as little Superman-esque as possible.
Right.
And the original film, I could see why you might want to do that. Like the original Superman is a classic film; it's an excellent film. It's still used as an example of how to do a superhero's origin story right and well. And in a lot of ways, they should have used Dr. No as a template for that, or maybe From Russia with Love. If they want to start with Bond established.
It's both of our favorite, right? From Russia with Love,
or GoldenEye.
Right.
Yeah, those are probably my top two. There are other ones that I like for various reasons, but yeah, From Russia with Love and GoldenEye probably 1 and 2 on a given day.
Who would you cast as the next James Bond?
Who would I cast?
If I weren't doing it?
Yeah, this might be. I'm interested to see how you react to this because we haven't really gone over this before. And someone that his name has been mentioned is in the running, not to the extent of like a Tom Hardy. We'll get to that. But the guy, another Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Loki from the Thor films.
Loki.
Who apparently is tall, but you wouldn't know it because he's always standing next to other people that are also tall, like the guy that plays Thor. But apparently they're both 6'3". They're humongous.
Well, I think I've seen a bit more of Tom Hiddleston, like not Loki Tom Hiddleston, than most people, just because I watch a lot of British television.
Sure.
So I've seen him in interviews and stuff. And I like him. You know, he's kind of an odd guy because he's very, very thin. Like, he's got kind of a very sort of almost gaunt look. It would be a huge departure from the typical Bond, because I think Bond tends to be sort of like... The idea of Bond, to me, is like everything about Bond is kind of average but ideal. It's kind of like, he's sort of like average height but like a little taller. He's not like ridiculously tall.
Sure.
You know, he's sort of like average build but a little bit stronger. You know, he's like he's got the right proportions. He's like Schwarzenegger proportions, but not Schwarzenegger size, right? So he's got kind of like the right, you know, how Schwarzenegger's always talking about proportions.
Sure.
You know, a man, what you would think of as a man, is like Sean Connery in his youth. I mean, I think at age like 15, Sean Connery looked like he was 35.
Yeah. Well, in the first Bond movie, I believe he's 30. Well, he'd be 32 when it came out, so he's like 31 when they're filming Dr. No, and he looks like he's in his 40s. He looks like a 40-year-old man.
I mean, he just looks like a man. Somehow, Sean Connery looks like a man.
Yeah, I don't know if that comes from like, eating lots of oats and whatever he was doing.
I think you and I agree that Sean
Connery...
Then
he stopped aging.
Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan were very good Bonds.
Absolutely.
Like how they looked, how they presented themselves. And they're not the same, though. They're not the same, but they both carried it off well. You know, and you look at the other Bonds and you look at what's wrong with them, and I think that Roger Moore and who's the other guy?
Dalton?
Yeah, Timothy Dalton were both a little too effete.
Where's Whitaker now? At his place in Tangier. Well done. Good luck. Saunders. Thanks.
They were a little bit too... I think so. I think they were a little bit...
I think that's a criticism that Roger Moore gets, but I think the criticism usually of Dalton is that he's too sort of like buttoned up and maybe like a little bit bland.
True, but I think the way he looks is a little bit too... he's just too thin, and he's not
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Timothy Dalton?
No, I think that Dalton was always had more mass on him than Brosnan did, especially in Brosnan's first outing.
Maybe,
but
maybe.
No, he's.
I think it's a square jaw thing. I think it's his face. He looks a little bit too.
Well, I think that Dalton actually looks like someone who could potentially play like Superman. By the time he played Bond, he was like 10 years before that, like when he was in that Flash Gordon movie.
Flash! Watch out!
Like when he was in Flash Gordon, like 1980, around there.
I don't think
he
I
might
saw
have been a
that
good
one.
candidate to play
Interesting.
Superman. But if you look at the guy, you know, he's.
I don't have a problem with Timothy Dalton.
Yeah.
I actually liked the first Timothy Dalton Bond movie. But he was a departure, and that's the sense I get is he's too light to play Bond. And then you get into the new guy, Daniel Craig. Then you get into Daniel Craig.
That's how forgettable Daniel Craig is.
Well, the
folks.
funny thing about Daniel Craig is I think that people kind of thought that he was going to be like that. He was going to be too effete to play Bond because he's blonde and he's not like he didn't seem like a tough guy. And then they completely made him like the toughest Bond ever. They made
he
him
looks
kind of
like
like
Popeye, so I mean, it's not that hard.
Well, he didn't before.
Didn't first.
Before he got that role, and they like buffed him up, and they kind of.
No, I just meant his face looks like Popeye. He's like the British version of Hawkeye.
He didn't look. He wasn't that. I mean, okay, God, I don't even want to get into like how ugly or handsome he is, but he's
not a good-looking man.
He looked good in Layer Cake. If you watch Layer Cake, that's the reason he got the job.
Probably, yeah.
Right. So there's a scene in Layer Cake where he's got this gun, and he's kind of trying to figure out how to use.
Isn't
this
he
gun.
even humming the Bond theme to himself?
I don't know, but you can imagine he is. Yes.
You're gonna need one of these. Fuck me, Gene. I fucking hope not. Are you trying to scare the shit out of me? I mean, I fucking hate guns. Although that one is really pretty, isn't it? Is that Second World War?
Hey, point it upwards, sir. Oh, for fuck's sake. Here, let me see if it's loaded.
I think that
going
he
around
is.
this corner of
I
this
think
thing,
Cole
he's
Meany is over there going, just going like, ah.
Yeah, this is
What an asshole, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, all right,
Cole
give me
Meany's
that,
great.
and he grabs this gun
Cole
from
Meany
him.
makes a great what an asshole face. He's like, that's perfect.
Is that the actor's name?
Cole Meany, yeah,
Yeah.
he's the guy that like at some point, yeah, he's the guy. that's
Irish
like,
guy, yeah.
kind of-
No spoilers. Watch Layer Cake. Excellent film. And you'll see why Daniel Craig got, I think it's good, you'll see why Daniel Craig got the James Bond role. But then the director of that film, who's the guy that did American Beauty, right?
Oh, really?
That did
Layer Cake
Casino
was
Royale?
directed by
No, Casino Royale.
Yeah,
Layer
yeah.
Cake was directed by the guy who did Kick-Ass.
No, he did what's his face that did Christmas
Royale?
movies, and Craig actually wound up with his wife because that director was married to one of my I think it's a very lovely actress. She's in the Mummy movies.
Oh,
Rachel
right.
Weisz.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz.
Weisz with a W. Yeah, Rachel Weisz. Now
German-
she's married
German W.
to Daniel Craig instead of Mr. American Beauty British director guy who did the last 2 or 3 with Daniel Craig, but the first Daniel Craig one was Martin Campbell. He's Mr. Bringing Back Bonds, who also did GoldenEye.
Oh, did he?
He did indeed.
Oh, he did Casino Royale.
He did Casino Royale, yes.
Oh, interesting.
They wanted to go with a sure thing, and like, well, that guy did GoldenEye. Let's get him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
very very good director. He's done a couple of stinkers, but I like his directing style. He did that first Zorro movie.
I wonder why
with
he
Antonio
made all these
Banderas.
choices.
Very
then.
very good
I wonder why
adventure director.
I wonder why he made all those choices to make him so not Bond-like. Then
It's probably direction from the studio. I think he's more concerned with things like pacing, with how the shots
Yeah.
look. I think he's much more of a technician
There were good
than a
things-
director
there were
that
good
really
things
sort of
about
like,
that movie.
I want this to be like. I don't think he's a director based on his previous work that really has a lot of input about the story and that sort of thing. I think that he's a director that wants to make a well-paced film that looks freaking amazing, which is what he does. So more
yeah.
power
I
to
mean, the
him.
production value of Casino Royale is kind of flawless. I mean, there's nothing I can think about it that's poorly done.
No, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I have seen it several times. Not anytime recently, but I liked it, and a lot of people liked it, and I think it's a good movie. I mean, the second one, they went full Bourne. Since we're already talking about Daniel Craig,
Yeah.
And the second one, Quantum of Solace, was basically like, okay, let's just make the Bourne supremacy, but with Daniel Craig.
What do you think the next movie's going to be like? Because they got the new M, and the new M is what's his name? Voldemort.
Yes. Oh, you mean the final Daniel Craig movie as advertised? What the next one's going to be?
No. After that movie, because I don't know what that's going to be. It doesn't matter to me.
You assume they're going to keep him as M.
I assume they're going to keep him as M.
Well, they did that with Judi Dench.
Judi
Dench,
was I didn't understand.
Very
that
strange. Yeah.
Because it was unnecessary. Well, they did that with all the subsequent M Bond movies with M and Q, right? M and Q stayed the same. They kept changing Bonds.
It's true.
So that makes sense. But I never really liked Judi Dench. I don't dislike Judi Dench as an actress or a person. I just don't like her as M. I felt like the dynamic between M and Bond was always annoying and weird. Like even in Goldeneye, I found it annoying.
Well, they had this idea of like
feminism, blah blah blah. Yeah.
They tried to really make Pierce Brosnan the Bond of the 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
And they tried to make Daniel Craig the Bond of the modern era, which was
and they are. Yeah, there's all these little SJW things. And
yeah, it was actually exactly 10 years after
Goldeneye.
Goldeneye, yes.
We had a criticism of the new Moneypenny, right? They made Moneypenny this black girl, which I'm not like a huge fan of shifting the race of characters. I don't think it matters that much if you get the right character and the right actress. For a smaller part, for iconic roles, we both kind of agree. An iconic role should just, you wouldn't want to take...
And Moneypenny traditionally has been a small part. She's usually in one, maybe two scenes.
So yeah, so she could potentially shift like race, but I don't think that... I think they're doing it for SJW reasons. I don't think they're doing it because this actress was the best actress. I mean, honestly, I can't even remember what her face looks like particularly. Yeah. But I do remember that she was not Moneypenny-like. I feel like Moneypenny needs to be sort of like the girl next door lives in a cottage type.
Well, again, they fiddled with the character. They basically...
I hate that.
She basically was a field agent like Bond.
Right.
That wasn't cut out for it, so then she stayed with the agency and is now working as secretary.
Right.
Oh, but of course not a secretary. She's like an administrative assistant or something.
Whatever. Yeah. I don't mind her having a bit of, gall and being able to stand up to Bond. I think she has to be able to stand up to Bond a little bit.
Well, her thing is... She is gaga for Bond, but she's also feisty and has a lot of personality.
She's got the wisecracks.
And Bond enjoys their interactions,
flirtation, and
obviously she's good at her job, or she wouldn't have that job.
Yeah, but the reason we don't like her, this new girl playing Moneypenny, is that she's too sexy.
Yeah. she's too hot to play Moneypenny.
Yeah,
and it's like breaking from character.
Yeah, I feel like they could have. Well, I don't want to get into it. Yeah. I don't want to give anybody any ideas because we're going to do a script. Based on a minor Bond character.
Yes. So, and then what we actually, since we're on the topic, you were talking about how you liked Mr. Voldemort as M.
Hey, darling. Yes. What's Voldemort, the actor? What's his name? Ray Fiennes. Ray Fiennes.
Is it Rafe?
They say Ray.
Ray Fiennes. Okay. Ray works. I can say Ray. So Ray Fiennes.
I think that's right.
So you like Ray Fiennes?
But it's pronounced. It's spelled like Ralph.
Yeah.
Maybe they do say Rafe. It's either Rafe or Ray.
Well,
but you can't tell because the F for Fiennes.
Yeah, it's a double F-scabon. There is such a thing.
It's a disaster. I don't know how British people...
We'll just call him Voldemort. He's freaking Voldemort.
Okay, so Voldemort. Yeah, sure.
Voldemort with a prosthetic nose is playing... now I can't think of the other guy's name. M.
M.
He's playing M. And you like that casting because
he looks a lot like the original M. It's really? Almost identical, yeah. It's bizarre.
I don't remember him looking like that.
Oh, yeah. I'll find it. You keep talking.
So he likes that casting because it's sort of like as though he is similar to Bond in a certain way. Like he, in the last movie, he maybe not the last movie, but in a recent film, he's like, pushing guys off of cliffs and just like shooting people and like jumping in there and doing Bond-esque stuff.
I love that.
Himself.
I love that's the old man doing some Bond stuff.
Doesn't look like him.
He does.
Ridiculous.
Hey, it's just an old
looks
white
more
guy.
like Brian Dennehy.
It's just old British white
British
man.
Dennehy over there. It just looks just like Rafe or Fiennes or whatever the hell his name is. But see, I like how different the characters are in the Bond films, and I always thought of M as a bureaucrat, just somebody who was in the political realm, who was like an intelligence man who was more of dealing with papers and things.
These two,
and then he got his way up there by being efficient or just for like being a better bean counter than the guy next to him.
Yeah.
And now he's in charge of guys like Bond who go out there and work as espionage agents and shoot people and find stuff out, and it's not like it's a job that he ever did or was ever particularly well suited for.
Look at the monitor. I think you should play M, and I should be Bond.
M stands for magnificent. So
Asian M. I like it.
You're calling me a bean counter with no ability and a scrape? Is that what I am?
That's what I'm saying.
Soybean counter. That's what you're really thinking, you racist bastard. Oh, that's my jam right there. Anyway,
racism.
If anyone's still listening,
yeah,
I like that Bond is the only guy in the movie that's like Bond, and the bad guy, he's kind of like a Lex Luthor-y type of guy, but like Blofeld. Blofeld shouldn't
cartoon
shouldn't
characters.
be like
Like everybody should be a cartoon character. Everybody should have their distinct characteristics. You like
for the most part, very archetype characters.
I like that too, but I also like an unexpected character coming out and doing something kind of heroic that you wouldn't expect. And I think
Certainly.
M is a fantastic candidate for that kind of a thing.
Sure, I can see that. Yeah, it's kind of like what they do with like Martin Campbell in what's Martin Campbell, the guy that plays
Bruce Campbell.
No. The guy that plays Watson in the British TV series. He's in the Black Panther movie, and he sort of like has his they give those characters their
Martin
moments.
something else.
Martin Freeman.
Is it?
Freeman, yeah,
Martin Freeman?
that's what it is.
I hate him.
Freeman.
I'm sorry. I mean, honestly, like, he might be the greatest guy in the world, but every character he plays is kind of a dick. I hate every character he's ever played, except Watson. I like Watson. But Watson's kind of a bitch, too. He's always complaining.
What about the Hobbit movies, where he played, what's his name, Dildo?
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen those, so I can't comment. But,
Okay.
But I know a guy who knows the Scottish one. He used to go surfing with him in Scotland.
That's
He's
right.
a big
yeah.
surfer.
From the original. When I say the original, I mean from the early 2000s.
Yeah,
those movies.
Scottish dildo movies. Yeah.
Mr. Daggins.
Dildo Doggins. Yeah.
So
I like this lighting.
So anyway, yeah, like Bond should be Bond. There shouldn't be a character that's kind of like Bond, because it's like on Firefly. If everyone's Han Solo, then no one's Han Solo. Like Han Solo shouldn't act like Luke. Luke shouldn't act like
I actually like Firefly.
Han Solo. They should be distinct characters. You know, Chewbacca shouldn't suddenly like get a lot of lines for no reason. Just keep it the way it is. It's fine. It's working fine the way it is. We know who everybody is.
That would
Just
be
get on
awful.
through the
Just a
damn
movie
movies.
that was like Chewbacca was like the main character, and he was just like talking throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, like he has a
Just
moment.
subtitles.
He has a moment like Silent Bob in those terrible Kevin Smith movies, where all of a sudden he's like, "Well, actually," he just imparts some knowledge on everybody. And he just goes,
speaks English.
And then in the next scene they're like, "Wow, Chewbacca, that was really profound." He's just like, "Wah." He's just like back to it again, like that's it. He's done.
Chewie, you never told me you spoke
in and
English.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, where are we going?
Back to the candidates.
Okay, do you want to recast anybody other than James Bond?
Let's not get into that just in terms of because I don't think it really matters as long as the cast.
So who do we got? Who do we got? Let's
casting
go through the
of
cast. Let's go through the cast.
Okay, so we mentioned Idris Elba, who we don't like the idea of casting him because he's black, which is the reason why he would be cast.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like that
It's a
idea
horrible
either.
idea.
He has said, I'm not going to like try to directly quote him, but he basically said like, well, the guys that wrote the character, the guy that in Flem obviously, the guy that wrote the character described him as a white guy that
Scottish guy.
and he's just like, I don't have a problem with that. Like,
And I, by the way, James Bond producers, am Scottish.
anyway.
Back me up here. What kind of best friend is
He
this?
has a temper, I can attest to that.
I do have a temper. Idris Elba, like he seems to be okay with not being cast. I don't believe it for a second, but you got to say that stuff.
Not right for the part though.
Definitely not right for the part.
But
who else do we have in the running?
In the running, there's speaking of not right for the part, Tom Hardy.
Oh yes,
Tom
yes.
Hardy. About to play
James Bond to talk like this the entire movie, I'm sure it would be fun.
I actually really like that idea.
Yeah, it's good,
nice.
right?
Yeah. Just watch like this the spy woman just be like.
It would be like the villain. Like okay, let's say they redid Goldfinger, right?
Uh-huh.
It would just be the same voice for all.
Do you expect
me to talk, Goldfinger?
He was.
I expect you to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
If they shot it in a wide, you couldn't tell who was saying what.
No, it was too dark or something.
Yeah, they actually revoiced that guy. That's not his voice. They didn't-
because he had like a strong
which
accent.
was more commonplace back then. They did that also when
They ADR'd everything.
From Russia with Love, they revoiced the girl in that.
Interesting. Well, if you ADR every single thing in the whole movie, then everything looks fake anyway.
That's true.
It's all a little off.
Hong Kong films to this day are doing that.
Yeah.
It's apparently so noisy out there.
So easy.
They can't get any dialogue recorded.
Right. So, Tom Hardy we don't like. Well, here's the interesting thing about Tom Hardy. I don't think Tom Hardy's a bad actor. I think he's a fine actor. I just don't like the sort of enigmatic characters that he plays. Sort of the same criticism I have of Martin Freeman. Like, I feel like the characters he plays are kind of the same, and they're all annoying. So I don't have a specific problem with Tom Hardy himself, but I have this vision of Tom Hardy as these weird characters with a prospector voice in like every character he plays. Like, did you see
There's Goldfinger in them there hills. Yes.
Very good. Did you see the God, what was it? The battle one, the World War II movie.
Oh yes, that you loved with a fiery passion.
It's got the same fucking voice.
Dunkirk.
Yeah, Dunkirk. He's like, oh, shoot, the Germans down there. It's like, why is he Bane? Well,
maybe he thought that was sort of like an old timey, like bully sort of accent.
No, of course he did.
He did.
That's clearly what he thought.
See, I think it could be good if you cast Tom Hardy, who is a good actor, and you didn't let him do a weirdo voice. And you made a movie that was
I think he would actually step away from the voice.
Yeah, that was if you made a good
of course.
You made a good movie like GoldenEye or From Russia with Love, it would be great. It would be fun.
I think you would.
But I don't think the casting would necessarily be ideal. I think that someone who would pick Tom Hardy would probably be making a sort of film that is even more of a departure
too
from
artsy.
Bond than the Craig
he
movies.
does artsy movies. It's an interesting idea. I mean, if you could actually take Tom Hardy, put him in like a perfect Bond movie, it might work. It might actually work. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to imagine him doing that role because he never does. You know, he did that one where he played the twin brothers.
I did not see that.
I didn't see it either. So we're not film literate enough.
If there is a movie that proves that Tom Hardy can play James Bond well based on a performance that he's already done, please mention in the comments. And I'm sure everybody else will be like, "Yes, you're awesome. Those guys are idiots."
Yeah.
So do it now.
Tom Hardy might be the best choice. But anyway, moving on. Who else do you like or dislike?
Well, since we're on the topic, most actors that play Bond have that. They have sort of like, oh yeah, did you see him in this? He could play Bond, like you mentioned with Daniel Craig in Layer Cake. He had that little moment where like, I am James Bond, I'm awesome. And he's like got the gun, he's doing his little prance about.
You know,
and
it's funny. Those are the actual like words, the official lyrics to the James Bond song.
Yeah.
I am James Bond, I'm awesome.
Yeah, that's how you write a theme for somebody, just like Superman. Just like
Superman.
Yeah, exactly. Or the animated series one, just like Superman, here he comes, he's Superman.
Oh, you got the lyrics.
Yeah.
Nobody knows the cartoon one. Did anybody watch that cartoon?
People just on the internet that would watch this know the cartoon. And the cartoon one is great.
It's an excellent.
I'm a huge fan of Batman animated series. He prefers Superman.
You know, it's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch all the Superman cartoon and Batman.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do that sometime.
But
they have
Justice League.
There are examples of these actors playing a character that's
Bond-esque.
Like with Pierce Brosnan. He played Remington Steele. And then he sort of like played the tough guy in Taffin. So he's like, I'm the tough guy, I'm the suave guy. So you can kind of envision him in the role.
He was very James Bond-like in Remington Steele, I feel like.
That's basically what he was playing. He's sort of like playing a comedic James Bond character.
And there was the Saint. Roger Moore was
the Saint. Excellent example. And I guess it was really Connery that didn't have that.
Well, of course, he was the first Bond. How would you...
And then Lazenby got hired just because he was playing a James Bond-esque cool guy in like a watch commercial. He was like on a boat. He was like, I got a watch and I look like James Bond. And everybody was just like, he does look like James Bond. Boom! It's just like
James Bond.
Yeah. And actually, and so
any watch commercial producers out there.
And what's his face there? Tom Hiddleston sort of has that because he played a spy in a miniseries.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I didn't watch it because, but I would definitely watch a. Like, I think that he could be a draw because he is known from in American films now. He has some American films under his belt.
He's big enough.
So let's get to the last guy, and the last guy would be Henry. Is it Cavill or Cavill?
Oh yeah, Henry Cavill. Yeah.
which I think is also a good choice. But I haven't really seen him do a great job of acting yet that I can think about.
He's good. I like him in.
He was a little bit
just
too.
about everything.
I'm not sure if he sort of like did a very naturalistic portrayal of Superman, so that's kind of how he is normally. But I know he's British. But then he was in the
He
new
did great as Superman. Yeah,
the
the Mission
Superman.
Impossible.
The new Mission
he was
Impossible
fine.
movie, he kind of sounded and like Superman sometimes. But I don't know if that's just because he's
We
doing an
know
American
him as Superman
accent
now.
and he wasn't putting on enough of an effect to
yeah.
change from that. But he's like, Superman's got a mustache.
Well, he's a huge star now. I think they're doing him a huge disservice by making him sort of like a caricature of Superman. Because they seem to be focusing so much. It's the sort of SJW, we don't like the straight white male thing, right? Because Superman is like the
Maybe.
quintessential straight white male.
Sure.
So they're like making him very bland.
Well, he's a
in the
much
movies.
harder character to do.
Make interesting? I don't think so. We've written him well.
Well, that's true, and not only, but you have to treat him like the way they treat Captain America.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very similar.
Right.
They treated him,
And he can make jokes.
They did Captain America well. They should be able to do Superman.
Writers of Superman. Superman can make jokes. He doesn't have to be super boring.
Yeah.
Like, they make Batman interesting, they make Wonder Woman interesting, they make even the Aquaman guy, who's not really that interesting,
Well,
is still more interesting.
just like
than
we
Superman.
said, they want the Superman movie to be serious, so they're afraid any sort of levity or wink and a nod will immediately devolve into camp.
There
You
is.
can't get
Did
too
you see
close
the
to
Avengers?
fun,
Or
because
the
fun
Avengers? Did you see Justice
is
League?
the enemy of. I did not, of course not.
There was one good moment. One good moment. Always the good moments are Superman doing something awesome. So there's this moment where they're all trying to stop Superman because Superman's a little bit crazy, just woken up from the dead, or he's zombie Superman.
An excuse for Superman to fight the rest of the Justice
Yeah,
League.
an excuse.
There's
Okay,
just
so
really
he's
no
fighting all
reason.
the Justice League, and the Flash can move so fast that when he starts moving, everything stops. And when he starts doing his Flash stuff at the beginning of the movie, he's a little afraid that he's going to get beat up, but he's so fast that like he's starting to get confident. Like, oh, actually, I'm so fast. Like literally, when I move, everything looks frozen. So I'm actually good. Like I really can't be touched. So everybody goes after Superman. They're all fighting Superman, and he starts running, and then everything freezes as usual. And so they're after, and everybody's like, you know, in this like struggle pose because they're all frozen. And he's running around Superman trying to figure out like, what am I going to do to this guy? And suddenly he just sees Superman's eyes go like that. And he's like, oh shit! Like,
That's awesome.
He's like running super fast. He's like, oh my god, he can actually move as fast as me. And then Superman's just like, and he's like, ah, and he like trips and he like falls over. And yeah, it's a great little moment because they set it up really nicely. But literally the only good moment in the whole film, sadly.
That sounds good. I bet that got a good
Yeah,
reaction.
watch the movie just for that
Watch
scene, just for
watch
that
it
moment.
just for that, and then
you're done. You can just fall asleep or whatever.
so and they say that if you sort of like announce your interest in playing Bond, you're automatically out. And if that's true, then Cavill's out because he has said he wants to play Bond, and he's really sort of like playing a lot of I could be Bond parts.
Yeah.
And apparently he was like it was him and Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Back in the day when
Oh,
he was
really?
when he was like
He was
20
already up for it.
when he was like 22. They was like, well,
Interesting.
we'll go with Craig because this guy's so young.
That was true with Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan as well. Yeah. I everything I've said up until this point in the video, ignore that. It's crazy. I've said nothing. I
So-
have no interest in playing James Bond.
So Cavill or Cavill or whatever he did.
Get it? Because you said if you announce.
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
I got it.
He didn't.
I paused for laughter.
I'm funny.
So
Honest.
so he did that. What is it? Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah,
Did you
Man
see
from
that? I
Uncle.
didn't
Yeah,
see
I did. I actually liked it
Does
quite
he
a lot.
play an American in that as well?
Yeah, he plays an American, and funnily enough, the American plays an Englishman, which is really weird.
I thought the other guy was Russian.
Ah, the other guy plays a Russian.
You sure you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
All right.
I'll tell you, the girl plays a British agent, I think.
Okay.
Is what. It
So,
is.
yeah, he was
So
in-
She's,
he was in
she's
that.
Swedish, or I think, right? And she's Swedish, and she
didn't
plays an
see it.
English. No, she's actually Swedish.
Oh, she's actually
Yeah.
Swedish. Okay.
Viclander.
Oh, Vikander's in
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Oh,
She's the girl.
okay.
Yeah, she's a British agent.
I will
the
be
guy's-
addressing the casting of Tomb Raider with Vikander specifically in a future video.
She was fine.
If anybody
Did you
still
see
cares.
It? Did you see it?
I did see it. I
She
did
was
see
fine.
it. I think a lot of
she
other
was
people did.
fine. The script was bad. I think that's my assessment.
Yes, as the late great Bill Paxton would say, "Ask like a 10-year-old boy."
And with that,
No, we're not signing off yet.
oh crap!
So yeah, I like Cavill. I think that he's a good choice, maybe even a better choice than Loki.
Yeah,
I think,
for sure.
I think
Yeah.
Loki is good. So I would say probably not Tom Hardy. I'd like them to go the Henry Cavill route. I think that would be. All joking aside, with Chris playing Bond, an American Bond, I think it's time for an American Bond.
Yeah, why
we
not?
got all these damn Brits coming
Yeah.
over here playing Superman, playing Batman. I mean, like.
Yeah, why are they stealing all our parts? We could steal one of theirs.
You know why? You know why? Because the Hollywood people say at least they're not American.
That's right. They might be
They're
straight white
they're
men,
British.
but they're not
British.
American
They're
straight
definitely
white
Democrats.
men. Yeah, they can't be. They can't be part of the patriarchy if they're
No,
not part of
no,
the
no.
most powerful country in the world.
No, I can't have that.
Let's see. It could be an Aussie.
They already did that. Lazenby's an Aussie.
Lazenby's an Aussie.
Some people are
Yeah.
still suggesting Hugh Jackman, who I think is far too old at this point.
Could be Canadian.
And will never
I'm
sort
from
of
Oregon.
separate
Very
himself
similar
from the
to
character of
Canada.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hugh Jackman shouldn't be playing Superman. He should be playing Dirty Harry. Where are the Dirty Harry movie reboots with Hugh Jackman? He looks like Clint Eastwood. And he's the right age. He's like
Oh yeah.
yeah, totally.
And he
Can you
can
see
talk
it?
like this,
He's
too.
built like him. He's got the legs and stuff. You know, that's what makes a
He's
good.
got the
That's what
legs.
makes a good Dirty Harry. The legs.
Okay.
That's right.
Yep. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. It's, and in modern day, he can shave him. He can be dirty hairless. I don't care.
Oh my God.
As long as there's high kicks involved, my day will be made. That will make. I know. No.
The people who follow you, the people who end up being your fans on this channel,
You mean most of the population of the planet?
are going to be people who like puns. I think.
Ah,
that's-
yes. I like
I
puns.
think that will be.
And
necessary part of your fandom.
what Alfred Hitchcock said, puns are the
highest
form of humor.
Of comedy. I think.
Puns are the highest form of humor.
For obvious
I'm
reasons.
generalizing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And he's not an army man either.
Who?
Generalizing.
Oh, generalizing. No. Oh. That's. You like all kinds of horror, don't you? Bad puns. And...
Not bad pun. Puns are the highest form of literature.
That's why I follow the Alfred Hitchcock diet, because I want to be just like that.
Yeah, he doesn't.
And
drink.
I'm looking more and more
He
like him
dries
every
himself
day.
out. He doesn't drink water.
Yes.
And
And I horrify attractive blonde women, so I'm right there. Getting close.
You're pretty much the same person.
The foundation is laid.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reincarnation of Alfred Hitchcock.
That's right. So, what do you want to see in the next Bond movie? From the next Bond and the next Bond movie? You want to see kind of a return to GoldenEye?
Well, okay. Here's what I would do. I would focus on the villain, right? I would create a very interesting bad guy, and and from there, I mean, you know how I.
Well,
write.
actually,
I mean,
that's a very good point, because if they did it in sort of the same way that they did the Tim Burton Batman movie, then you're sort of like, it's mostly the origin story of the villain, and the hero is there to stop the villain. That's
right.
And actually that's how they did Die Hard.
Yeah.
When they
how they
rewrote
wrote it.
Die Hard, they were looking at the story as basically Alan Rickman is the main character, and Bruce Willis is the fly in the ointment.
Well, that is
He's
really
the one
what
with
happened.
the plan,
Yeah, that really
and
what
Bruce
happened.
Willis
Yeah.
is the one
Well,
that's sort of
I think
out to
that
stop.
makes an interesting villain.
So in a way, he's not the
hero dynamic.
protagonist; he's the antagonist.
Yeah.
You're saying the protagonist should be the villain.
Yeah. I think that it should always be the villain story every James Bond movie, because James Bond's whole history is established. Who he is essentially established.
You know what? That's very much true in GoldenEye and in From Russia with
Russia
Love.
with Love. I was
From
going to
Russia
say,
with Love,
you don't even see Bond for
you don't
halfway
even
through
see
the
Bond.
movie.
There's several scenes setting up that this plan is to achieve their goal of getting the Lecter and to kill James Bond.
Yep.
We're going to insist that they do James Bond on this fake mission with
it's
a
an
Russian
absurd
agent
amount of
who's
setup.
actually working
Yeah.
with us. And they set the Russian agent up. They set up all this stuff.
And it's funny because
all of a
it's
sudden
only the
somebody
second movie.
finally gets around to calling James Bond, and he's
Yeah.
just like, "Yes, I'm with a beautiful girl."
Yeah.
It was just like,
and he's with the girl from the first movie, which I just love. I love
Sylvia
that.
Trench, from the first movie, and he's like on the phone, she's like, "Leave me alone."
I love. You know what? Actually, he said. I used to say this on the phone a lot when I was. I'm probably like in college or something. I used to go, "Chris Kohls here," because
James
in
Bond,
that
yeah,
movie,
yes.
because in
Says
that
James
movie he
Bond's
picks up the
here,
phone and he goes,
that's right.
"Bond here." That's the moment he
He
gets.
says
to think.
James Bond here, doesn't he?
I think it's just his Bond here. I'm
I
not sure.
don't think
Yeah.
so. Internet.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Chris is usually
He's got a
wrong.
much better memory than I do, so I'm probably wrong. But what you know
Movies
one
can
thing
be good.
You know one thing I would do in a Bond movie, I would make James Bond smoke. James Bond would be a smoker. I wouldn't give a about.
Well, he's supposed to be a flawed character. He might die any day. He's probably not expecting to live a long life, and he's supposed to be someone who is a drinker. And who is very interested in pleasure, be it rich food or sort of like, you know.
Yeah, I'd bring that back.
Well, I think we're about done, so thank you for your time. We enjoy having our little diatribes and things, but it's all in good fun. So Chris Kohls, also known as Mr. Reagan, I'm Kurt Franklin, and this has been Total Recast. Good evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Total Recast.